Hello and welcome to Crucible of Worlds for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're playing a deck that I enjoy a great deal, which is Mono White Painter. I played it a few times on the channel, but I haven't played it for a little while, so I thought I'd jump back in and have something quite fun and enjoyable to round the week out with. So what is this deck aiming to do? We're aiming to put Painter's Servant into play with a Grindstone. Painter's Servant changes the colour of all the cards in our opponent's deck and in play and hand, etc. Grindstone mills them for 2 if they're the same colour, it repeats the process. So these 2 cards allow you to mill out your opponent's entire library. The glue that holds this sort of deck together really is Oswald Fiddlebender, who can go and find either piece on his own. We also have Urza Saga, which can find Grindstone, and we have a Mother of Runes to protect our painter. Now that's kind of the main plan of the deck, but we've got lots of other little bits and pieces that come together to really make it hum. So Ingenious Smith helps us dig for the right pieces we want, and can provide a relative threat to accompany our Urza Saga tokens. We've got these Ethersworn Canonist, which are an incredibly powerful tool in a lot of matchups. Not just against Storm, but these decks that want to cantrip into answers or action or whatever, this really slows them down. And also it means against decks that are trying to interact with your combo, it means that once you have it in play, because you can play artifact spells as much as you want, you play these things, and if they try and remove your creature, you know you can go off in response. Or if they counter something, you know that the next thing you play is going to go through. So you've got a lot of utility with the Canonist, and it's a pretty impressive card. We got 3 Esper Sentinels to try and have a 1-drop, because we need to have 1-drops and 2-drops and stuff for maximising our Oswald Fiddlebender. But we have these Sentinels because they're pretty good at drawing us some cards, and they do a little bit of work here and there. We've cut the 4th one that we would normally have to play a Skrelv Defector Mite. So this is a 1-mana 1/1 artifact creature, so we can find it with Fiddlebender. It's got Toxic 1 and can't block, and it has a sort of Mother of Runes-ish ability where you choose a colour, another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 and hexproof from that colour until end of turn. It can't be blocked by creature of that colour either. So you can use this to force through a little bit of damage. You can use it to protect your creatures a little bit as well, but not in combat. It's only good on combat-wise. It's only good on offense. You can't like use it to turtle up and block like you can with the Mother of Runes, and it can't target itself. But this seems pretty good. And Eddie the Intern, who was the original innovator of the Plumber deck, he says the Skrelv has been excellent for him. So I'm really looking forward to trying it out. A couple of portable holes. These are things you can tutor for with Fiddlebender, which is pretty nice. Being able to have a removal spell there. We've got some things to find off of our Saga as well. So we've got 3 Aether Vials. I've been up and down on the number of Aether Vials, but I think I'm going to try 3 today with no Mox Opal. I would normally have a Mox Opal here because sometimes you want to Urza Saga for a Mox Opal, but I've just been pretty unimpressed with the Mox Opal, generally speaking. So we've got these Aether Vials, which can sort of be our mana thing to get if we need to, because we put a couple of counters on it and it's tapping for 2, which is pretty good. Doesn't help you doesn't help you activate the Grindstone, which is where it's worse than Mox Opal. I think in all other situations it's probably better. Then we have a Hope of Ghirapur. We can use this to make way for the combo, so we can go through, we can activate its ability, and then we know we can go off in peace. It also can block and bounce with Karakas to save us a lot of life points against things like Mite Regent. Pithing Needle, I very rarely leave home without a Pithing Needle these days. I think it's just a really good card to have in a Saga package. Shadowspear, so that our beats from the Saga are more effective. And a Saga Lantern, because Graveyard Hit is great. We've got a couple of other tutor targets I just want to quickly touch on. We have an Ensnaring Bridge and a Crucible of Worlds. Now, Crucible of Worlds, as you've probably guessed, is my favourite Magic card. So it's always going to go in my decks where it fits, but it's actually really good in this deck because it lets you replay Sagas and Wastelands. So your mana denial plan with like your Esper Sentinels can be facilitated with Wasteland, but also you can Wasteland lock people out of the game and sort of win off of mediocre beats, which is pretty good. I think this is a good deck for the Crucible of Worlds, and we also have 1 Horizon Canopy, so that we have a little draw engine going sometimes we can get. We have 1 Ensnaring Bridge in case we need to turtle behind it. This is obviously better game 1 than in sideboard games, because they're always going to have artifact hate in the postboard games, but having a little main deck thing that you can say no to creatures attacking you, especially when we don't really have any removal outside of Portable Hole, I think the Ensnaring Bridge is pretty essential at the moment, at least in the way I like to play the deck. And that's more or less the deck. A little talk about the sideboard. We have 4 plows, because sometimes we will need removal in our deck. A couple of Deafening Silence, so we can get up to 5 Canonist effects post-board. 4 Hushbringer, because Initiative is everywhere right now, and we kind of need a way of shutting that down. This is also very good against Death and Taxes and sort of these big grindy Yorion decks. A couple of March for Otherworldly Lights, in case we need to destroy various permanents. This one's a pretty good one, but it's also 1 mana, blow up target Urza Saga, which I like a great deal. We have 3 Leylines, which is a bit of an odd number, but we do have a another singleton in here in our main deck of Lion Sash. So we have a bit of graveyard hate in the Lion Sash and a little bit of graveyard hate in the Soulguide Lantern. So we're kind of hoping that 5 pieces is enough here. I'd normally like to have the 4 ley lines, but 3 should hopefully be enough, and that's enough to mulligan 2 against a matchup like Oops, where you need it. So that's pretty much the deck. So we're going to jump into a league and see how we do, but first it's time for a plug. Like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and really help me out, so why not help me out with them? Alright, let's play some Legacy. Right, we're on the draw for our first game here. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 already. We have a Mother of Runes into Fiddlebender into Ensnaring Bridge potentially, so this is a pretty strong way of turtling. We also have a Sash that we can use. If our opponent is a fast combo deck, they're probably going to beat us because that's kind of where we fall down a little bit with this deck. We're not great at racing decks that can clock you on turn 2 or 3. Alright, a Windswept Heath. What is this going to be? A Tropical Island, Birds of Paradise. So we are against a Yorion deck, and it looks like it's going to be more of like a grindy one rather than Breakfast, because Breakfast doesn't play green, so we should be alright to dodge combos that we need to grind through our opponent's doing. Mother of Runes should be very useful here. So we play out our Ancient Den here and into our Mother. So this can hopefully blank our opponent's removal, but I imagine this might just eat a Prismatic Ending this turn. Our opponent is going to have the superior long game because the 80 card Yorion Zenith deck pretty much has the best long game going because it's just nothing but value inside that deck. I guess Cloudpost is the only deck that's got a better long game that immediately springs to mind because that casts Emeralds. Okay, so there's a Prismatic Ending that we expected and a Dryad Arbor to follow. So we've got a few options here of what we do. And then there's a Saga is a pretty good option to have. So I think we're going to lead out with our Saga and get that going and get this Ingenious Smith on the road. And the other option here is the Fiddlebender, but I think we can... See, the Fiddlebender means that we can tutor for the combo when the time comes. Because this can get us a Grindstone, this can get us a Painter if we hit one of our 1-drops. I think we're going to play the Smith and just get a little bit into our deck. Our opponent's a little bit low on cards. We've got 3 left, so we can pull ahead, get some card advantage here. A Pithing Needle or an Esper Sentinel. Our opponent's a little bit shy on mana, perhaps. So maybe the Esper Sentinel could be useful here. But we're probably not casting whatever we get here. I'd rather have the Pithing Needle in our deck, just in case we need to get it with an Urza Saga. We're probably getting the Grindstone, but the Pithing Needle we can go and grab with the Saga if we do need to. So I think that's probably fine. Now we're probably going to get punished by a Wasteland here, because these decks are pretty greedy and run Wastelands. Okay, so this is probably going to be a Collector Reef, I would imagine. Yeah, there it is. That's fine for the plan we're doing with the Saga. It does switch off our Ancient Den, which is annoying. Okay, so we can play out our Karakas here. What is the better play for us? So we can turn our Ancient Den into something a bit more useful next turn. Realistically, how much of a more useful thing are we going to get out of it, though? I think we will drop our Sentinel here and our Hope of Ghirapur. This Collector is not going to block. So I'm going to play out this Hope of Ghirapur because we have other 1-mana artifacts and stuff we can play. The one problem that I see now is that our mana might be a little bit shy. Now, if we had a Mox open our deck, that wouldn't help the situation because of the Collector Roof. Next time we're probably playing the Fiddlebender, then we can turn the Ancient Den into a portable hole, but we're not really in a rush to do that yet. I suspect our opponent is going to pay... I expect our opponent is going to pay for this Ponder. Yeah, they paid with a Dryad Arbor. Our opponent resolved their Ponder. They did not shuffle their library. So that's back over to us. We will float off of this. And we'll search. We will search for the Grindstone, I think. The other thing we can get here is the Pithing Needle and name Minskambu, which is probably how our opponent runs away with this game at this point. We have another Saga coming to get the Grindstone. So I think we're going to name Minskambu with this Pithing Needle, which pumps our Ingenious Smith. We'll play out a Saga just in case our opponent has a Daze or something. Seems unlikely in these Yorion decks, but it's free for us to play around it. So then we'll get out our Fiddlebender. So we can portable hole the Collector Roof next turn. And if we can find a land next turn, that'd be pretty nice for us too. I don't think we want to play these out just because we want to keep the ability to keep pumping our Ingenious Smith if we have to win with damage here. We can also just go and get a Crucible of... okay. So they're paying here and just killing our Fiddlebender, sure. I was going to say we could also get a Crucible of Worlds and just keep recur these Urza Sagas, but alas, that plan is no longer a viable one. So now, what is our opponent up to? We've got 3 cards in hand. A Life from Malome. Are they going to pay 1 for this? They are, sure. So they're just running the Windswept Heath, and that's it. This will mean that the Esper Sentinel's value is going to dramatically decrease in subsequent turns. Surprised I didn't poke with the Collect Roof there. I guess it holds our Sentinel back. Okay, so we want to play an artifact this turn. I think we'll play this one out. It's a threat. We can also loop the Hope of Ghirapur to keep drawing cards as well. So our opponent, we don't want to name green because then they can Greenstone Zenith for anything. I don't think we want to name blue in case they got Force of Will. If we name white, I don't think that's going to matter unless they have Solitude. I think we just name black. This pumps our Ingenious Smith. Get to attack here. So we're getting some damage across. But our opponent has got one of their engines online in the form of Life from Malone. So we'll see how things transpire from here onwards. So they're cracking their Windswept Heath for a Tundra. Sure. Now this deck could be black with Snuff Outs in as well, which is why black is pretty free to name here. It's unlikely looking at this mana base so far, but it's not impossible. A Greenstone Zenith for 4. This is probably going to be very bad for us. We get to draw a card that doesn't do anything, but it pumps our Ingenious Smith, I guess. So this is probably going to be an Omnath. Yeah, so there's the Omnath. Now we are bigger than the Omnath with our Ingenious Smith, but this is a Mighty Fine Magic the Gathering card. Okay, they got a fetch land to go with it, so that means they get 4 life and a bunch of mana, so they get to deploy another threat here, potentially. So this is running away from us. As I said, the game's gone a bit too long. We needed our Oswald to last a bit longer so that we could get a portable hole. Okay, just an Ice Fang, that's not too worrying. They do have red-white up, so they could draw into a Bolt or a Plow, or some sort of blue spell. A Ponder, okay. They've still got this mana floating, which might be able to do something for them. We can Soulguide Lantern and get rid of the Life from the Loam now it's in the graveyard as well, because the trigger on it will still happen even though they've got a Collect Roof. Obviously we can draw a portable hole and just put this game to bed at some point, but let's float off of this. Go and get ourselves a Grindstone. This will pump our Ingenious Smith. So we can play out this. And we will play out the Soulguide Lantern here. We will exile our opponent's Life from the Loam. So, we have a 5-5. They have a 4-4 and a 1-1, so they can put both of these creatures underneath our Ingenious Smith. Am I okay with that happening? I think so. They can just chump block with the Ice Fang. This doesn't have Death Touch yet. We're just going to take the hit. This gains them 4 life whenever they play a land, right? Yeah, so might be a little bit taxing to overcome. We want to keep our Wasteland around because if we draw a portable hole next turn, we can portable hole the Collect Roof, play the land, kill our opponent. So we've got a plan for this game. If it starts going away from us, we do have the Ensnaring Bridge we can drop and buy ourselves some turns. But we've got quite a high life total and we're trying to pressure through. Again, we can do our Hope of Ghirapur bounce trick to block. We can also use that to keep rebuying counters on our Ingenious Smith. So we do have a lot of decent options. Okay, so we've got Prismatic Ending on our Esper Sentinel. Sorry, on our Ingenious Smith, and they're going to pay the Esper Sentinel tax, I suspect. Yeah, sure. So there goes our beatdown plan. So if we can draw another mana source, we're going to be on the Ensnaring Bridge plan, perhaps here. Okay, they put a Yori onto hand. I think I'm happy just to take this 4 life right now. We could block and bounce. We could also bounce their Omnath, but they draw a card if that happens. Another Painter's Servant. It's not the one, is it? So we can play this one out. And then I guess we can play out the Lion Sash. It's a creature. No, that's going to take down our Karakas, isn't it? We can't afford to do that. No, I think we just have to pass here. And things are slipping away from us. We do have an option of bouncing the Omnath and trying to Wasteland them, but they do have enough lands that they should be able to still cast Omnath because of the birds. And they also have the Dryad Arbor. So I can't waste them off of a colour. We're just trying to draw a portable hole here. Yeah, we're just going to do the block and bounce trick on our Hope of Ghirapur here. A Yorion. Sure, so this is going to get them 2 more cards. It's not the end of the world, but it's not great for us. It does give them another creature to attack us with. But we're just trying to draw a portable hole here. Portable hole and then fade the potential Force of Will out of our opponent, which is getting more and more likely given the increasing amount of cards entering our opponent's hand here. Portable hole, please. Ethersworn Canonist. You are not a portable hole. So I guess we play this out and we're playing the damage prevention game here. We just got to try and last long enough. But a lot of the cards in their deck just draw them more cards. So that Omnath and Ice Fang trigger drawing them 2 is probably going to end up seeing them even more cards. Yep, so here's another cantrip. Yep, so they're paying for it, so we don't get to try and draw into this portable hole. Statistically, we have to see 11 more cards before we should have theoretically drawn one of our holes. But I guess we'll block the Yorion. We'll bounce our Hope. We still have hope. Both the Ghirapur kind and the we can probably win this game. Grist the Hunger Tide. Now this is getting closer to being game over. So this can blow up our Painter's Servant. Nope, they're just making a token. Okay. I think that's possibly a little bit greedy. Unless they have a Force of Will in hand, which then it's pretty reasonable, I think. Which means they probably have the Force of Will. Okay, so we've drawn a Plains. So let's try and deploy the thing that stops us from taking damage on the next turn. So what we could do here is we could play 2 permanents out here. So we could play out our Hope of Ghirapur. Our Ethersworn Canonist, and then play out our Hope. Chum block with the Hope, and then next turn try and land the Ensnaring Bridge. What this does is make it slightly harder for our opponent to kill us with these bigger creatures, so we can reduce their clock. They do have a Grist that they can use to drain us out for a bit of damage, but that's going to be a little ways off before that's lethal, since they don't have any creatures in their graveyard right now. Obviously, they're going to be milling, so they're going to find some along the ways. Okay, they're just going to blow up our Painter, I suspect, here. Note, they're blowing up the Canonist. Very disrespectful. Okay, so they're gaining 4 life. The beatdown plan has well and truly disappeared. And we're just getting buried under all the value right now. We do get to have some useful sideboard cards. Oh my, what is our opponent casting? Oh, they're hard casting an Atraxa. Okay, let's see what they reveal. If they reveal a Force of Will, then I think we just have to scoop. Let's have a look. No Force of Will. They do have a Plow and an Ending. Feels like a very powerful top end to stick in one of these decks as well. Okay, so they chose Ice Fang instead of Endurance. They chose Misty instead of Forest of Ottawa. They chose Swords. And they chose Zenith instead of Ending. So these are the cards they have in their hand. It's a lot of cards. Alright, opponent. How bad is this going to be? 4, 8, 9. Like, I think we're dead whatever we do here. So we may as well give ourselves a chance. Blocking next turn when we play the Ensnaring Bridge. Plow targeting our Painter's Servant. Yep. We do have a Painter's Servant in hand though. That's going to put us 1 mana off. Okay, that's the abundant growth we know about. So we had a bunch of turns we could have drawn the portable hole to win us the game, but I think those turns have gone away from us now. Let's try this. This stops some of the things from attacking us. Okay, they got a Force of Will. We can scoot this one up. Yeah, our opponent's late game is just better than ours by so far. We missed our window to win the game there. Alright, so what is going to be good in this matchup? The Hushbringers are something I would very much like here. I think the Plows are fine if you want to go that route. I'm not convinced they're that good, but we probably have to have them in just for the sake of the Collector Roofs. So Ensnaring Bridge is probably going to be less useful in the next game. Lion Sash has got some pretty good text here. Our opponent definitely has a Karakas in their deck, so we can trim one of these. Mother of Runes is going to be very good. The Aether Vials are going to be good. I don't think the Shadowspear is going to be that good. I don't think we're going to be beating our opponent down in this matchup because they just got such a powerful way of clogging up the board. I think we're going to struggle to beat them down. Probably take out our Ingenious Smiths because of bringing in the Hushbringers. We've got 2 more slots to find. I like the Crucible of Worlds as a way of generating card advantage in this and possibly having the Urza Sagas going off. What we're looking at here. Aether Vial should be good against all the counter spells. Is it just another Fiddlebender? Maybe trim on one of our Grindstones because we're going to be finding them off of our Sagas. Sure, we'll run it like this. Not particularly confident in the deck that's just full of removal, card advantage, and kill spells. So the older control decks that were more like Jeskai, they tended to be really weak to the Urza Saga plan. But I don't think the Yorion deck struggles too much against that because they can just go up the works with all these death touches. And they've got some built-in life gain with the Omnath as well. What does our hand do? We make a turn 1 Aether Vial. That's going to be pretty good. I think we can keep this. I think we lead out on our Wasteland because we'd rather not have our Ancient Den wastelanded. Let's see how we go with the Aether Vial. Okay, so the Aether Vial's stuck. So we can put in Skrelv and Esper Sentinel next turn. Which of these would I rather be uncounterable? Okay, so Skrelv is looking pretty bad in the face of Karakas. Understood. And they're just getting rid of that, sure. Now we can Wasteland that away, but we don't really have other lands to follow up, and a Collector Roof just completely kills us if we do that. So let's play this one out. Let's play out the Sentinel. We could try and mess with their Karakas here, but if we play out this legendary creature and they bounce it, that's 1 less mana they're operating with. So we're more likely to draw a card with the Esper Sentinel. If they don't do that, then we might be able to nick in a little bit of damage, but I don't think we're going to win this game via beatdown. Collector Roof, yeah. So this is why we didn't Wasteland, because we lose the game if we Wasteland there. Because the chance of us being able to cast anything to keep us alive long enough goes down dramatically. So we can play out this Aether Vial, not that it's going to do anything. So this turn we attack with our Hope. It's a bit unfortunate for us that they had this rather than having to find it. Also, they're an 80 card deck as well, and they probably only have the one Collector Roof as the Greenstone Zenith target, because they've effectively got 5. So we would have possibly been able to buy ourselves another turn, but not that that would really help us before it came down if they had a Zenith instead. So they can bounce away our Hope. Very much the end of our Hope on the battlefield right there, in more ways than one. So we can play out a Canonist. It's fine. This is probably just going to be paying for this rather than letting us draw a card, because they've messed with our land here. So we're going to put a counter on our Aether Vial in case we ever get rid of this Collector Roof. We need to draw a white source, and then we need to draw a portable hole. So we've drawn an Ancient Den. That's not really the one we want. There's no reason for us to keep this in our hand right now. It's just more lands to unlock if we do find the right thing. I guess then we're swinging for 1 here. At some point they can leave open mana that casts an Endurance, and then we can't really afford to swing anymore. So a previous version of this deck that I used to play was a Stoneforge Mystic build, which was much better against Delver, and probably better against these sorts of things because it's just much better versus Artifact Hate. Okay, which one of our creatures are we losing? Presumably the Sentinel, because they can bounce the other one. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so the Stoneforge Mystic build was better against these sorts of matchups as well, because Collector Roof doesn't really impact Cauldra, and we had 1 less Ancient Den in our deck because we didn't need to have 4 of them to find with the what's it called, the Ingenious Smith. So I'm pretty sure we're getting smoked. Okay, so we can play out a guy that can block. We've seen black mana, so we would very much like to dodge a potential snuff out, even though it's incredibly unlikely. Attack for 1. This is probably the last time this gets to attack. They're relatively likely to bounce this now. They don't actually have a swamp for a snuff out, but if they've got black cards in their deck, I would be very surprised they didn't have a Bayou or something. So our 1/3 can block the 2/2, and we'll take 2. So we're not winning this race. So we're not going to put a counter on Aether Vial. We don't have any 3-drops. A Karakas. Okay. This lets us deploy some other things. So we can deploy this, and then we can waste down our opponent's Karakas. They will use it for the Hope of Ghirapur. But let's attack. So let's get the 1 in or not. I'm just going to bounce it. If we waste down it, they'll just bounce it anyway. They could play an Endurance here. Yeah, okay. So we have a choice here. If we either bounce our Karakas... sorry, we can't bounce our Hope of Ghirapur anyway. So we get to kill the Karakas, though. Going to target us. Get rid of this Karakas. We're going to lose our Hope of Ghirapur here, but it's not really doing a lot underneath a Collector Roof anyway. A Brainstorm, sure. Windswept Teeth. I guess we're taking this. We can't really afford to lose either of these creatures right now. We might be able to get another creature to block the Plague Engineer with. Okay. Swords to Plowshares. That's not nothing. We're not in a great spot, though. Like, we don't win this game without ploughing this guy. So if we plough this guy now, got Force. This will unlock our white mana to deploy the Skrelv. And we might be able to double block on the Plague Engineer. Our opponent's thinking about this for a while, so I have a feeling we might not be getting this to resolve. If we can unlock our white mana, then I can use my Wasteland. But keeping up 1 and a white feels like a good place to be right now. Force of Vigor, targeting these things. Pitching Uro. Sure. So we can deploy our Skrelv. And then I think I'm going to hit our opponent's Trop here. They've got a lot of 4 mana spells and above, so I would quite like to keep them low on mana if I can help that. Now, we do have these creatures to worry about, so we could put 2 creatures underneath the Plague Engineer. But I don't think we want to do that. I think we have to take the damage this turn, and then hopefully draw into something a bit more useful. We're going to have to start blocking soon. Our opponent has mana to cast an Ice Fang, which is a pretty good one. Source Plowshares on our Painter's Servant. Our Skrelv cannot tap for that right now, so we just have to let that go. Okay, a basic Plains. So we can do our Skrelv bounce trick. We can give our opponent 1 toxic damage, but that will cost us life to do, right? Because we have to replay it. So we can pay 1, actually, to give it this. Then we can bounce it and replay it. No, we just need to hammer away for 1. Not that that's really going to be where we're at here. And then we're going to do the Skrelv Karakas trick to prevent 3 damage. And hopefully we can draw a creature that can trade with the Plague Engineer or some removal. Alternatively, get rid of the endurance. We need to affect our opponent's creatures. But they've hit the third land here, and we got an Uro, so that's probably going to be bad for us. Okay, so next turn they can hardcast this Uro. We do get to bounce it, though, so it's not the end of the world. But it means you can't do this block bounce trick. Oh, this can't block, actually. What am I talking about? Oops. Okay, we just take the 5 there. First time really doing very much with Skrelv here. And I forgot that it can't block. Not going to be that useful, this matchup. So we have a plow, so we can... What can we actually do here? The Skrelv can't block, so I think we should just attack with it at this point. I don't realistically think giving our creature hexproof isn't going to help very much. If it is one toxic, it's going to help very much either. Right, are we getting plowed here? No. Okay, we're going to trade for a Dryad Arbor. I honestly think that's fine for us, because that means our opponent doesn't immediately have the mana for a Uro. We do have the Karakas to stop the Uro ever connecting with us, but we have a decision to make about how much damage, which one we kill here. So if we block the Endurance and then hit the Engineer, so this is on human is the problem. So we can't really draw anything to trade with this. We can't really draw anything to trade with the Endurance either, but we can draw something to chump block a Plague Engineer. So I think we have to block the Plague Engineer and then plow the Endurance. We're just treading water here. Like, this game is... Okay, they've got force, so we just die. Sure, we got absolutely crushed in that matchup. Their deck just has way more card advantage. If we're not going to be winning in the first few turns, I think that's lights out. And the Collector Roof is such a massive hammer blow against what we're doing. It stops our combo, and it basically double wastelanded us as well at the same time, so set us so far back. We did draw pretty poorly, to be fair, but we've got a lot of moving pieces that aren't necessarily that impressive on their own. They're part of a wider whole, whereas they just played good cards, which is going to beat us heads up when we're not doing our thing, really. Oh well. Can't win them all, so that's the first round in the books. Let's go into round 2. Okay, so we're on the draw. We have a way of protecting our thing. We just need to draw an Urza Saga or a Grindstone. And Oswald doesn't necessarily get us there, but can do some decent stuff and set up a Wasteland lock. I think this is the keep. Plains on. Okay, our opponent is on hammer time, so we might not get the most amount of turns to assemble our stuff here. This could just be a Cauldra, depending on what our opponent's got in hand. Sword of Fire and Ice. Okay. Doesn't mean our opponent can put it into play right now. So put this Mother of Runes into play. If we get our Painted Servant into play as well, we can protect from colourless sources as well as coloured sources, because everything will be coloured then. Okay. They might already have the Cauldra in hand. Okay, and there's a Saga. This is one of the ones we wanted. Let's put this into play. We'll play this. We will name... tough. I guess we're going to name black again. And we can protect it with our Mother of Runes. In 2 turns' time, we can kill our opponents. Can we survive for 2 turns is the question. So we'll take... Okay, so they're just putting the Swords of Fire and Ice fairly out there. They could have a Pure Steel Paladin or something, but we'll see. Nope, they're just equipping it to their Ornithopter. Sure. So if they make a mistake to try and ping us for try and ping our Mother of Runes for 2 here, then that's going to be not good for them. So this will protect it from the Sword of Fire and Ice. So they wasted 2 damage there, which is good for us. Buys us more turns. Unless they were trying to get the Mother of Runes out of the way for something, but doesn't look like that's the case. I doubt they'll do that play again. Sure. So this turn we will play our Plains. And the way we lose this game is if we lose our Painted Servant, right? So I think we play out the second Painted Servant rather than making a Saga token here, based on our life total. So we'll also name black. And we'll play a Hope of Ghirapur. Okay, so we have the win next turn. We have 2 Painted Servants and a Mother of Runes. So they kind of need 3 removal spells to stop us from doing this, unless they've got an instant speed way of killing our Grindstone. But that shouldn't matter because we're just going to... We've got the 3 mana in play, so we can activate it. So I don't think we have a problem here. I think we'll just block here. Just not worry about them getting an extra card or pinging our Mother of Runes or whatever. We don't need that Ornithopter, that Hope of Ghirapur to win this game. Activate for this, and then we'll go on and find ourselves a good little Grindstone. So we'll activate now. 1, 2, 3. They conceded before we got to see their deck. Okay, so don't mind that one. That's the exact... Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So Hammer will still come in and do stuff, so I don't think the Hushbringer is going to be great here. What I think we just want is removal spells. The Crucible of Worlds is probably going to be a little bit on the slow side here, so I don't think we need that. We don't really need Graveyard Hate, so we can get rid of those. This isn't really an Aether Vial matchup. I quite like having the flyer actually here. I think we can take out these Aether Vials, and that's relatively clean cuts there. They might have Karakas for our Fiddlebender. That's something to think about, but I think this should be sufficient. So we're going to roll like this. This is an interesting one. We've got some removal. We've got half our combo. It's the easier half to find, unfortunately. We have an Urza Saga, so we've got like a sort of game plan there. We also got the Eiganjo. I think this is a keep. The Ensnaring Bridge is okay, but if they have the Sagada's Aid, they can play things with Flash, which is... So they can play it with Flash and it equips, so they can attack with an Ornithopter and then put a 10 plus 10 plus 10 on it, which is not going to be amazing for us. So we have some choices about what we're playing out here. I don't think this is a time where we need to get the Grindstone going. I think we're just going to play out this Ancient Den, and we don't really want to give them anything for killing this. We're just going to sit back and see what we get off of, see what they get for their turn. If we have to source the Plowshares, something we will, but hopefully we can just wait till our turn. Okay, so they've got a Stoneforge. What are they getting with their Stoneforge? A Paradise Mantle. Okay, that's not the super scary one. So we can play this out. We can deploy our Oswald Fiddlebender this turn and then try and hold up removal on the following turns. I think this is probably the only spot we're going to get a Fiddlebender going, and our opponent kind of has to respect this because we can combo off pretty easily with this in play. Pure Steel Paladin. Okay. Paradise Mantle. Sure. Does this mean they've got a hammer to go with it? An Ornithopter. Equipping. Plowing our guy. Okay. That could have been substantially worse. Another Sentinel. Sure. So we don't take any damage this turn. I'll take an aggro deck not dealing me damage. Ingenious Smith. Interesting choices here. I think we're playing out the Wasteland because the Eiganjo has some useful text on it. But now, would we rather play out this Ingenious Smith to try and dig for a... I think we just need to hold up the plow in case something dangerous happens. So I think the plan is plow or make a 2-2. Now our creatures are better than theirs pretty much. But if they have hammers and things, then we're in trouble. But that's why we're holding up the plow potentially. Okay, so the Ornithopter is going to be... Okay. Interesting. My creature getting plowed before combat? I want quite a lot of life here. Let me just nail one of these for now. Disenchant. On our Ancient Den. Okay, yeah, so we still get the trade here. Not excellent, but that's way better than our opponent doing something good with that turn. We don't get to make the second construct token though, which is not great. So we'll float a mana and then we'll go and find something with this. What are we going to find? Pithing Needle doesn't seem amazing here. I think we can get a Hope. It can block. It can do some stuff. So we'll play out a land. So we've got some mana here. I think we can play this one out. Try and dig a little bit. I would like this combo card. And then we can play out our Grindstone to pump our Ingenious Smith. They will get a card here, which is not ideal for us. But I think we need to have our creature be a 2-2. Means we have to fade 2 draw steps instead of 1. I think that's still... We kind of need to empty our hand to get an Ensnaring Bridge going. 1 hammer doesn't kill us anyway, so that's fine. Oh, they got nothing there. That's good. So they're a bit like us where they've got these cards that don't really do anything on their own. So that's pretty nice for us. Okay, a white source. I'm happy to have a white source here. Let's try this. We will name black. So we'll pump our Ingenious Smith. And then we'll pass the turn. So next turn we attack with the Hope, potentially. I imagine we won't get to connect with it though. So it might just be in grindstoning territories. But we'll see. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. A Shadowspear. Okay. An Ornithopter. So if they put this on the Paladin, we can trade it with the Ingenious Smith. If they put it on the Esper Sentinel, we can gobble it up. If they put it on this guy though, he just kind of sails through and deals us 1 damage. So I don't really care about that. We got 2 cards in our opponent's hand though. That's what I'm more concerned about. Understood. Sagada's Aid. Okay, so they can put things in with Flash. They're trying to plow our guy. Can't do anything about that, unfortunately. But they have no cards in hand now. So, we've got a lot of draws that are decent here. Ingenious Smith is pretty decent. Let's go for this one. I'm surprised I didn't put the thing on the Sentinel to tax us twice. Swing and a miss. Yikes. So what am I most scared of here? I think we're just playing out the Sentinel here. If they get a hammer, they can do a big hit for us, but we kind of need to empty our hand and then rely on an Ensnaring Bridge then. Karakas. They can bounce our Hope of Ghirapur, but they're not doing anything right now. We can happily take one. This is a very minimal amount of damage. We should be putting on the Sentinel, I think. Because I can't attack into the Ornithopter because they bounce, but this costs us extra mana to tax us when we're operating under less lands than we would ideally like. A Painter's Servant. Okay. I will play a Painter's Servant. We will name black. We will pump both of our Ingenious Smiths, so we've got some pretty big walls. And we just need to fade one more turn of our opponent's draw, and then we can mill them out, unless they've got some sort of Gaia's Blessing tech, which is becoming increasingly common. A Stoneforge Mystic. So this gets a hammer. That's still not lethal though, so I think this is fine. If they've got an Umazawa's Jitte, that doesn't do it. Colossus Hammer. Yeah, okay, this is fine. So they're going to pay a little bit. Sure. Pure Steel. I don't think they should have paid there. I think they should leave up the mana in case they... I guess they got the Paralyzed Mantle actually, so they've got loads of mana. So they're putting it on a guy that doesn't have Trample. Now they could put the Trample Hammer on it if they want to. Yeah, sure. Your life total doesn't matter here. Okay, they're conceding. So what we were going to do is we were going to just put something underneath it just to damage soak. If they tried to put in the other card from their hand as another hammer, then we can plow. That does let them draw a card, so they might have a plow back. But ideally, we don't want them to draw a card this turn so that we can just untap with them not really having anything and grind them. But they've given us the game. We're on the play for round 3. We have an Aether Vial. We don't have white mana. Now, if we draw any land, this is a turn 3 kill. I reckon we can do this because we can use the vial to put in the Ingenious Smith and maybe find a Ancient Den. So I'm going to give this a go. We're going to play the Urza Saga because this allows us to turn 3 kill. Now, if it disappears, that's going to be a bit awkward for us, potentially. If we don't have the mana. Okay. Polluted Delta. That's usually a combo we land. So at least we can now kill them without putting a spell on the stack for the rest of the game. Watery Grave. Okay, this is Death Shadow, so probably getting Thoughtseize here. Yeah. Our opponent is a Wasteland deck, so I'm kind of glad they didn't Wasteland us, to be honest. Probably losing this Painter's Servant, I have to imagine. This does show them how important Wasteland is going to be against us, though. So it's some useful information for them. Goodbye, Painter's Servant. Put a counter on this. Turns, this gets a counter as well. We'll play out our Wasteland. Soul Guide Lantern. I don't think Wastelanding Death Shadow decks is a particularly useful thing to do with your time, because their deck operates very effectively on 1 mana. Now, if they don't have another land, then we might be able to cheese them. But we're trying to assemble a combo that requires us to tap 3 lands in order to win. Interesting that they're doing the days here. Like, we don't have anything better to do with that. Maybe that's just to protect them from the Wasteland. That's making me think that the Wasteland's going to be good against them. We'll get rid of the Thoughtseize, I think. Okay, that's giving me the distinct impression that my opponent doesn't have another land. So if we see the same Watery Grave again, it's making the Wasteland more tempting, but then we won't have any lands. Okay, so they've got a Wasteland. So we lose our Saga. Sure. They can't interact with our Aether Vial, so that's something. So we're going to put in the Ingenious Smith now, because it can find us a land. It probably won't, but it can. Oh, it did. Also found us some other interesting things, but I think the correct play here is just get a mana so I can actually play the game. Let's pump our Ingenious Smith. So we could play out the Mother of Runes, or we could play out the Canonist. I think we should just play out the Mother of Runes here. This can protect our creatures quite effectively. Going forwards, our opponent's deck is very disruption heavy. Ooh, we get a force out of it. Pitching a Brainstorm. Remember, if we see the Watery Grave, that could be a sign they don't have any more lands. Grief. Okay. They're just 2 for 1 in themselves all over the shop here. They can't reanimate this without us getting rid of it, so that's good. They can do a weird play of trying to reanimate our guy and seeing if we want to Sorrow Lantern that, but I think we just let them have it. A Wasteland. Okay, we're going to lose our white source. Oh, they're going to Wasteland our Wasteland. Interesting. We're not going to cycle the Sorrow Lantern here. So that does make me think our opponent didn't have another land. We're not going to put any counters on this. We're just going to say no. A Painter's Servant. Okay. I think we'll just put in the Canonist here, because this will pump our Ingenious Smith and it'll also beat for 2, which is going to be a better clock. Now our opponent can do some Death Shadowy stuff and play one of those, which would be annoying. We've got Murktide covered because when they get close to having 2 lands, we can just zap their graveyard. In an emergency, we can also draw off the Soulguide Lantern. There's the Watery Grave that we know about. A reanimate targeting our Mother of Runes. Do I care about that? No, I don't. I think that's fine. We're not really trying to remove any of their things. We'll say no to this. Draw for turn. Another Ingenious Smith. I do like that one. This means we might not be able to pump our creature this turn. An Ancient Den. I would like an Ancient Den, please. Both our guys. We will cast this now because of hand disruption. We'll also name black so that we can't get snuffed out. And we'll attack. Sure. So then we'll Soulguide Lantern. We can't Soulguide Lantern our own graveyard anyway if we wanted to earlier because it's each opponent. Sure. So we got the concession. I don't really know what our opponent was intending to do with that particular hand. But yeah, works for us. Let's sideboard. So, Death Shadow. Death Shadow does not like having their Death Shadow Swords to Plowshares. That's for sure. The other March of Otherworldly Light is good against Shadow, but not good against their other two threats. So I don't want to bring in the March of Otherworldly Light, I don't think. I wouldn't mind keeping in the Portable Holes. These seem fine. Graveyard Hate seems good. Pithing Needle can name Wasteland. That's certainly an option I wouldn't mind having. Lion Sash is very good here. All of our cards seem pretty good here. So, we need to make some decisions. Crucible of Worlds I like versus an opposing Wasteland deck. So maybe we're taking out our Pithing Needles. We've only got one of those anyway. And we're not really going to get it unless we go through the Saga. And if we've gone through the Saga, we're probably in an okay shape anyway. So we can trim down on combo pieces here. And then what are we looking at? Is it one of our Oswalds? Skrelv? Is it Portable Hole? I think it might be the Portable Hole. We have 1 to 2 to 4. But there's not that many targets apart from Death Shadow. And we have that covered with Plows and Bridges. We have a basic Plains, which is one of the things I definitely want in opening hand in this matchup. We have a Mother of Runes. If it untaps, then we're going to be in a good shape. So I think we'll keep this. They are on the play, so they do get to daze our first play if they want to. Okay, they could Thoughtseize and daze us in the first turn cycle, which would be pretty brutal. They might just take the Mother of Runes here, because that protects all of our things later on down the line. Depends what's in their hand, really. If they got removal, then they're probably going to want to get rid of the Mother so they can leverage their removal as and when they want to. Okay, so they might not have removal. Oh, this is good. I think the Sentinel is better than the Mother here. Let's try this. It's going to get dazed. Sure. I think whatever we play there gets dazed. Underground Sea. Into Ponder. Let's see if they shuffle or not. They shuffled their library. That's good for us. I don't really want to snap off this Wasteland. So we have two choices here. We can either try this Ethersworn Canonist into a daze, or we can try the Mother. I think I'd like to try the Canonist. Reason being, if they do daze, then they are a turn behind. If they don't daze, then they only get to cast one spell, so they're unlikely to be able to deploy any threat at all. And if they don't deploy a threat, that just gives us more time. And time is going to be pretty good for us. If they don't play a land, then maybe we Wasteland. Grief, pitching Grief. Sure. Probably going to take our Painter's Servant because it represents a combo kill. They can't reanimate this turn either, because this is their non-artifact spell for the turn. Yep, there's a Painter like we thought. That also turns off their Snuff Out of the Painter as well. So they have a Wasteland. They're going to Wasteland our Wasteland. You can't play an non-artifact spell, opponent. Felt like they were maybe trying to reanimate here. So that's some good information to have for next turn. Cool, they're Wastelanding our Wasteland. So if they want to reanimate Grief, we can wait till it comes into play and just kill it. We will lose one of our creatures, which is pretty sad. But I think that's what we have to do. Turak, Dread Cantor. It's a pretty bad one for us. I think we're playing out the guy here. Next turn we can go and get Crucible of Worlds, and we can just strip away all their lands. We'll take a few hits from this Dread Cantor, but we got a lot of life to work with. And if they play a Shadow, we do have a Plow available. The fact they only played this as a 2-1 is pretty good for us, rather than just zapping our hand. Engineered Explosives for 2. Okay. Understood, opponent. So we're going to take 2 here, maybe? Maybe not. Okay. Okay, this Karakas, pretty good. We don't want to bounce this because the Explosives is going to clean it up anyway. So we're going to go pay a white, sacrifice his artifact, go and get ourselves a Crucible of Worlds. And we'll play a Wasteland from our graveyard. Then we will Wasteland our opponent twice. Pretty mean, but I like it. They should have one basic land in their deck. So they might struggle to come out from underneath this. I always love to get a Crucible of Worlds win on camera, and there we go. Excellent. My favourite card coming in clutch right there. So that is 3 rounds in the bag, and we've gone 2-1 so far. So let's keep the train rolling. Into round 4. Our opening hand is a very fair, boring hand. I don't think we can keep this. If we had a Wasteland or an Urza Saga, I would keep this instead of these lands, but I don't think we can keep this. This hand has its own problems, and I don't want to keep it. Like, we have to draw... I guess we can draw runner lands, but one Wasteland and we lose the game. So you have 2 draw steps to find 1 land, then another draw step. God, is this greedy keeping this one? Feels very greedy. How much do I believe in the heart of the cards? Is the question. How am I going to keep this 1 lander? Oh. Go on then. Let's see how it goes. So we've got turn 1, Mother, into... Okay, so our opponent could be a Storm deck, or they could be 8 cast. Okay, they're looking like 8 cast. So, yeah, they're going to draw 5 cards in the first turn cycle, potentially. Pretty good. They're not a Wasteland deck, though, so that's nice. I think we just hang out the Grindstone here. Our opponent could be a Painter deck as well. So if we get a Grindstone, that's a pretty big target. A blue deck like this doesn't care about the Mother. That's why I didn't play the Mother then, because they're not really going to be targeting our things. The only thing they're going to target with is Otherworldly, and that's pretty marginal if they will even do that. So I guess either Spell Bomb is another thing they can have. I think we're better off just Chalice of the Void for 1. Okay, pretty glad we got the Grindstone down. This means our opponent is on regular 8 cast rather than the Painter build, which I think is the far superior deck right now. I think the results that the mono blue Painter deck is putting up are pretty phenomenal. I go as far as to say it's probably a top 5 deck right now. That's how strongly I feel about it. Alright, they're seeing some of our cards. We would very much like to draw a mana source. They're going to get a lot of cards. Now, if we don't draw a mana source, it's our own fault for keeping this hand, to be fair. We drew a mana source though because we're great at playing Magic the Gathering. So let's do this. It's just going to be a Force of Will. I think we will name Black. I like naming Black. It makes all the artifacts look really good. So if we draw a land next turn, we might be able to kill our opponent. A Mishra's Bauble. So they've just got a load of 0-drop trinkets, really. That's why I prefer the Painter deck, because instead of having these Urza's Baubles, it has like real cards. So they have the ability to cast to channel an Otawara here. So we can't just go for it out of nowhere, necessarily. We can do it in our opponent's end step, I think. They could have a Hull Breacher, so I'm not going to attack. I'm just going to pass the turn. We're not winning this game with combat damage, I don't think. So they didn't do anything with that turn cycle in terms of all their mana they had. They're playing a Cap Cannoneer with no mana floating. I think we grind them in response. They conceded rather than show us their deck. But I'm pretty sure they're standard 8 cast because of the Chalice. So Leyline has some text, but it's not the text I'm most interested in there. The card I most want in this matchup is Mite Otherworldly Light, because it hits a whole bunch of their things. I like having Graveyard Hate here, so we're going to keep those in. I like having the Pithing Needle. The Hope of Ghirapur is okay when they're a Catspell deck. Portable Holes are nice. We're a little bit in trouble from Hurkyl's Recall, but that's just a thing we have to deal with. I actually like Crucible of Worlds for when this game gets a little bit slow and grindy. The Canonist is terrible, so we'll get rid of the Canonist. This gives us one more slot, which is probably just going to be a Plow. I think we're okay with this setup. The Mother of Runes is a little bit weak as well. They tend to have things like Dismembers out of the board, but I think I'd rather shave on the Mothers and have Plows. I think that's a better place to be. The Hushbringer can stop the Kappa Cannoneer triggering, but I think if the Kappa Cannoneer is in a position where it can attack us, it's probably already gone a bit wrong for us. This can stop Emery, but Emery usually comes down before it. The Deafening Silence has some text in this matchup. Is it text that I want, is the question. It stops our opponent chaining multiple things. I think we'll go for some Deafening Silence, actually. What are we going to board them in instead of, is the question. I like the Portable Holes. I think the Skrelv is probably quite weak here, so we'll take a Deafening Silence. And then I don't actually like Hope of Ghirapur that much here because they have so many Thopters of their own. So we have to Deafening Silence. So what Deafening Silence is going to do is stop them being able to do... If they cast a Bauble, they can't cast anything else that turn, which is a bit of a beating. The Leylines are viable in this matchup, but I don't think I want them enough. So what does this hand do? This hand can make a turn 3 kill if we find a land. If we don't, how are we looking? A bit squiffy. I think we'll keep this. We just need a land and then we can combo them. Okay, our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards. So now their deck does draw a lot of cards. But one of the reasons I don't like the 8-cast deck is because you have all these baubles that you don't know what they're going to be. So it makes your mulligans... You can't really evaluate your hand that effectively sometimes. Whereas in the Painter build, because you instead of them you've got your combo pieces, you can evaluate your opening hands a lot better and play to game plans instead of just, I've got some baubles, let's see where this goes type thing. And because you kind of need the baubles to draw cards, but you also need them for Metalcraft, there's a bit of tension in the 8-cast deck that I personally don't like. Obviously, you know, the deck's fine and people do well with it, but I just think the Painter build is just far superior. Alright, our opponent's starting on 5 and we're starting on 7, so that's a good sign for us. A Lotus Petal. Okay, a one-shot piece of mana, that's good for us. An Urza's Bauble. Another Urza's Bauble. Seat of the Synod and a Thoughtcast. Okay, so they've undone their mulligan a little bit, but now they've got 2 cards and like a bunch of trash on the board, really. So I don't mind this. Also, Mite Otherworldly Light can blow up Seat of the Synod, just so you know. They've seen our Painter 7. They've seen our Urza Saga. So they're drawing cards here. I would like to draw... Okay. We're going to play the Grindstone to try and force out a counterspell from our opponent. They shouldn't counter it because we have the Saga in play, but our opponent might get twitchy and just think they have to counter the combo piece. Okay, they didn't counter it. Fair enough. This means that if for some reason our Urza Saga doesn't tick all the way down, we still have a Grindstone. Suggests to me that our opponent, the fact they didn't even think about it, means that maybe they don't have a counterspell. They weren't quite F6, but it felt pretty close. Okay, so drawing some more cards with the Thoughtcast. So, okay, so now they've actually deployed a way of winning the game. We can Wasteland this. I don't want to Wasteland it. I'd like to draw a white source this turn, maybe. No, we kind of need to play our Painter Servant out. Well, I would like to draw a white source, but we shall see if they're going to pass a turn or do anything else here. Their Urza Saga token is going to be pretty large. Okay, they're cracking a bauble. This gives me the impression that our opponent really wants to find a counterspell. We do have 2 Painter Servants though, but our Urza Saga is a disappearing land, so it definitely comes with a catch. This is actually a situation where having the Mox open in the deck would be good. Okay, so they're baubbling. Okay, so we drew another land. Excellent. Let's play out our Painter Servant. Do you have a counterspell for this one? They do. Force of Will pitching Sai. Okay. Sai would be pretty scary, so that's good. So I think what we're going to do next turn is play out the Crucible of Worlds, and then we can just start wastelanding our opponent out the game. If we draw another land, I might Crucible of Worlds next turn. So if we draw another land, we'll wasteland their Saga before they get to fetch. Okay, that's fine as long as we can find a white source at some point. This is going to name Grindstone. Oh, it's named Wasteland. Interesting. Okay, so they have a second Pithing Needle maybe. Let's float mana for this one, and let's go hunting. Okay, they're correctly activating their Urza Saga response because I would be quite tempted to name the old Urza Saga. So I would actually like an Aether Vial here. Quite like to get some mana on the board. So I think this turn we just play out the Urza Saga and deploy this Crucible of Worlds. This way we can just keep recurring these sagas. We can blow up the Pithing Needle if we find a white source and then just wasteland them out of the game. But they might find a piece of Graveyard Hate off of their Saga. So this is giving them multiple lines they have to think about. Force of Will pitching Sai, sure. I love to see respect for the old Crucible of Worlds. So I'm going to take some damage this turn. Not sure quite how much. 2 turns time we can put the Painter Servant in uncounterably and Grindstone our opponent. So they're making a construct. So 5/5s, they get the artifact off this, makes it a 6/6. And if they've got any cards in hand that let them produce more artifacts, then down the rabbit hole we go. So 6/6 means that they don't kill us next turn, which is really important. We do get to make an Urza Saga token of our own to block with. That won't be a tiny size, but we have to see what our opponent gets here. They could get an Aether Spell Bomb, which is going to be a little bit difficult to play through, provided they leave open blue mana. There's Aether Spell Bomb. So we can take a wallop from the old construct token. Fine. Okay. I think we'll put in an Esper Sentinel now. So we have potentially 2 chop blockers if we need them. They do have an Aether Spell Bomb. So that's a 4/4. Not a very big blocker. We'll take 6 here though. An Emery, sure. So if we had a Mox in our deck, we'd be able to win on our next turn. Because we'd be able to have a white source to blow up the Spell Bomb before we put our Painter in. So there's an interesting development right there. Now if we draw a white source this turn, feels like it's probably about time that we drew one. It's not a white source, is it? So we can chuck in our Painter and try and Grindstone with this Spell Bomb, but we're just going to be losing to these constructs. So what are they going to get back? They're going to get back Kappa Cannoneer next turn. So, actually, we got Pithing Needle on our deck, right? Yeah, we got Pithing Needle on our deck, so we have this game now. Okay, yeah. So we float off the Saga, and we go and get ourselves a Pithing Needle. We play it, name Ether Spellbomb, play out the Saga, and we Grindstone our opponent. They got no cards in hand, the Ether Spellbomb can't activate. I think we're all good. That Needle on Wasteland and then countering the Crucible was interesting. I think they had to do either or, not both. Opponent said they didn't hit a blue source. We didn't hit a white source all game. We played this entire game without white mana. So, you know, that's relatively alright. An interesting game, that one, I think. I think it showcased some of the weaknesses of 8-cast quite nicely, and it also showcased the strength of Aether Vial as a card. And, you know, obviously as a Saga, it's pretty good. Okay, let's go on to the final round. We're looking for the 4-1. On the play for the final round, this is our opener. I like this one. We have the combo sewn up between Fiddlebender, Ancient Den, and Painted Servant. We can also play a little bit of an Ingenious Smith game if we like to as well. So we're going to keep this one. Now, if our opponent's a quick combo deck and they're going under us, then we lose, but we've had that conversation several times. I think we just play out the Karakas here. If our opponent's got some sort of reanimated deck, we can at least bounce the creature they put in, potentially. We represent Source of Plowshares here, and we don't play the Ancient Den, so our opponent doesn't know that we are quite what deck we are. Oh, is this another 8-cast deck, or is this going to be the Painter build? Let's find out. It could also be the Echo deck. So, this Canonist is going to be hot garbage. So, let's play out this and play out our Fiddlebender. Because this game has to be quick, this will strip either 2 cards out of our opponent's hand or be on board as a very powerful thing that can let us win in 2 turns' time. The backup plan is Ingenious Smith to draw more cards, which is also fine. Haywire Mite. Okay. This is a pretty potent one because it blows up our Ancient Den. So, how do we go about beating this? Interesting. Very interesting. I think step 1 is planes. I think step 2 here might just be throwing out the Ingenious Smith. Because of the Haywire Mite, it's going to be a little bit tricky. So this is most certainly the Painter deck. Okay, so we have an Esper Sentinel as well. It's kind of interesting. I think we're just going to play out the Esper Sentinel here, pump our guy, get a cheeky attack for 2 in. Because I think it's a Painter deck, I don't think they're going to have the Hull Breacher. So this is the better version of 8-cast I think we're playing against. So we need to be on it here. A Thought Monitor. Yep. Some cards. Be nice if they dropped their green mana, but that doesn't seem like it's likely to happen. Are you going to pay? You're going to crack a Lotus Petal to stop me drawing a card? Sure. That's still a 0 for 1 for me. Spire of Industry. Emery, Lurker of the Lock. That's a pretty good one. A Pithing Needle. Interesting. So we can jam our Pithing Needle here. Tricky choice here. I think it's the Haywire Mite. Is it the Haywire Mite or is it the Emery? I think it has to be the Mite. Otherwise, they just get to do their thing anyway. I'm not super happy about how that went. If we play Painter, they can get the Grindstone and kill us. So we can't play the Painter this turn. So what can we get here? We can get ourselves a Grindstone. We can go and get ourselves a Soul Guide Lantern. But we're going to need another 0-drop if we want to do this, is the only problem. Although, actually, what we can do here is we can go sacrifice this. We could have also got a... Oh, maybe we should have got a Lion Sash, actually. That might have been slightly better. I think we get the Soul Guide Lantern here. Exile their Grindstone. Then we play out our Canonist here. Now they'll be more inclined to block. I don't really want to attack. So what our plan could have been there was to sack the Sentinel for Lion Sash instead. Would you like to pay more for your Thought Cast? I suspect you probably will. Yeah, sure. There's a Saga. So they want to get the Painted Servant into play. If they have a Grindstone, we just die to it. So I think we have to just exile their graveyard right now. Okay. So, kind of wish we had a 0-drop here. Yeah, the Lion Sash line off of the Sentinel would have been way better here. Maybe we just get lucky and draw a 0-drop. We did not get lucky and draw a 0-drop. So I think we have to play out our Portable Hull first. Do you have Force of Will blue card in hand? Force of Will. Are we going to get to draw a card here? Okay, so now what we do is we Fiddlebend away our Canonist. It's Crucible. Then we play our Ancient Den. So next turn we have the combo sewn up. We can play out this Aether Vial if we want to. How important is playing out that Aether Vial? I don't think it's that important. It's another thing that we can mess around with though. Or are we just playing out our own painter? I think we're just playing out our own painter here. So I have to fade one draw here. And then we get to tutor for the win. We didn't necessarily have to play out the painter here. What have they drawn? They're making a construct. Okay. This is a thought monitor. Shadowspear. That guy doesn't have haste, so we win this round. Don't know why you're putting it on that guy and not just putting it on the other guy. That seems weird to me. Alright. Our turn. Float white. Sacrifice this artifact. Get ourselves a Grindstone. Grindstone our opponent. And they will not show us their deck. But I'm pretty sure I know their list. So, what would we like here? I think there's a lot of options. Ethersworn Canonist goes. That's a given. I think we have a lot of cards that have text here. So this is okay. The Hushbringer is a better versus this build, I think. But I still don't think they're that necessarily that good enough. The Mites of Otherworldly lights are good and the Plows are good. So I don't think we're looking at Hushbringers here. I don't think Mother of Runes is very good in this matchup. The reason I like Leylines is because I know they brought in a Gaia's Blessing. Skrelv seems pretty bad here. I don't think this is going to be a Shadowspear-y type game. They're better at playing that game than we are. But maybe we need that just so we can buy a little bit of time. The Painted Servant might be something that we're looking at getting rid of, but we're more likely to... We're slightly more dependent on the combo than they are, I would say. I like the Portable Holes here. We want to keep our Graveyard Hate. The Hope of Ghirapur feels bad when they have a lot of flyers in their deck. Depending on... We don't know how many size they have in their deck, if any, though. So maybe the Hope of Ghirapur will be okay. But I think I'd rather have these sorts of options. And we need to trim one more, so it's probably just one of the painters. Okay. Let's see how we go. What does this hand do? We make a Grindstone. We kill their creatures. We play Ingenious Smith. We lose really hard to Hurkyl's Recall, I guess. Because we'll lose a land as well. I think we keep this one, though. Having a Grindstone doesn't stop our opponent from just doing their thing, though, because they can still play and do the combo as long as they do it in their turn. So the next person drawing a card is us, then they're fine, basically. So, Basic Plains is a card I'm very happy to see right now. I'm going to hang out this Grindstone when our opponent's only got 3 cards in hand. Do you have Force of Will blue card? No. Okay. So then we can hold up double Plow if we think they're going to painter us. Interesting. I think we play out the Canopy here just in case of something like Hurkyl's Recall. So they're going to make a token this turn, and then they're going to get something off of their Saga. So they might have just switched completely out of the combo here. So then we're going to pass with Plows up. Yep, you can make a guy. That's fine. We're going to have to get around this Spell Bomb at some point as well. So we're going to make another token. A Haywire Mite. Sure. It's a pretty cool one. I think we are Source of Plowsharing this creature. A Grindstone. Okay. Message understood. I very much didn't board out of the combo. Good to know. I think this is an Ingenious Smith turn. I would like more mana, please. Let's pass the turn here. An Ancient Tomb. A Painter's Servant. Sure. They're going to cast Grindstone against us. So they might have Metallic Rebuke, which will be lethal. So let's try and plow this and see if it works. If they have the Metallic Rebuke, they can... Okay. We just mill a little bit. Nice. Okay. So we can take the 6 here. I think we block because our opponent's probably going to be Shadowspearing us next turn. So this is the only chance we get to block that 6 damage. We dealt with their painter, but we're in a bind still. Then we cast this. See a bit more of our deck. We can't ever hang a painter out there unless we have the kill immediately. Okay, a Grindstone. A Portable Hole. I like Portable Hole here. This is good. Okay, so that pumps our guy. We can cast this Portable Hole. I think we just get rid of the Construct token here and buy ourselves some more time. We can get rid of the Spell Bomb and stuff, but they can just Haywire Mite it back if that's what's necessary. If we put a Painted Servant on the stack, they can also Haywire Mite our Grindstone. So I think we might have to try and get a little bit of beatdown going here, which doesn't fill me with a great amount of joy, truth be told. A big Construct, and what are they going to get this time? Pithing Needle, Bauble. Okay, just a redraw. That's not so bad. So if I play a painter, what they do is they Haywire Mite our Grindstone in response. and then they just grindstone us in our turn. So we can't play this Painter's Servant out. What we can do, though, is we can play out this Urza's Saga. That's a pretty nice one. Then we can play out this Shadowspear, which pumps our Ingenious Smith. And then we can equip our Ingenious Smith with a Shadowspear. So we can take a hit this turn from the construct, but we've got the active Saga now, and we've got more stuff going on. So we might force an Aether Spellbomb or a Haywire Mite on something they don't want it to go on. Pithing Needle. This is going to name Urza's Saga because we have the active Saga. Yeah, sure. Grindstone. Sure. Maybe we could just get into manual grind time. Their manual grind is better than ours because we have more white spells than they have blue spells, I believe. Sure, we're going to take this damage this turn. March of Otherworldly Light. Interesting. So, that is a useful card to have right now. So we're going to pump our Ingenious Smith first. And then we're going to swing with our Ingenious Smith. And then we are going to cast Otherworldly Light on their Pithing Needle, I think. Maybe that's a mistake, actually. Maybe we're supposed to wait on that just in case they have something. Because we're making the Urza Saga in our opponent's turn. Haywire Mite on our Saga. Sure, float a mana. So we've got the lifelink here, so we win this race. They do have an Aether Spellbomb to mess up the race a little bit, but if they bounce our Ingenious Smith, we get to draw a card off of it. Seat of the Synod. Not a very strong one. Are they going to keep their guy back on blocks? No. I don't think we want to grind our opponent manually here. Okay, I think we draw a card here first. Okay, then we cast this Aether Vial. This gives us an option to beat the Aether Spellbomb with mill as well. Let's play out our Ingenious Smith. Draw a card. An Esper Sentinel. We will play our Esper Sentinel and pump our Ingenious Smith. Now they can just draw a Painter's Servant and kill us. Thought cast. Are you going to pay? They are going to pay. This makes the Painter's Servant line less likely. I think we can Painter's Servant our opponent in 2 turns. The question is that going to give us enough time? If they got another Mox Opal, they might just be able to kill us here. Sure, we'll take the damage here. We're not about that blocking life. An Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, I like this one. We don't know if this is going to resolve is the problem. So I think if we equip our little guy first and try and get the most amount of life we can get here. Do you have a Force or a Metallic Rebuke? This is like a Metallic Rebuke. Okay, sure. Would you like me to draw a card? We cannot pay 3. So next turn, as long as we don't die. So Shadowspear gets pretty close to killing us here. Thought Monitor. Sure. So as long as we don't die this turn, I think we can paint a Grindstone our opponent out. You going to pay for this? Another Grindstone. Sure. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. So we have to block with our Esper Sentinel here. I think they should have played that second main phase rather than having to tap down the mana, to be honest. I guess it makes their guy big, so that I have to block. Okay, so this looks like an Otawara from our opponent here. So we'll put a counter on the stack here. So we draw. An Ingenious Smith. So what we can do here is we can play our Painter's Servant. If they have a Force of Will, then fair enough. If they have a bounce spell, we can grind, and then if they bounce our Painter, we get to put it back in. They could have a Metallic Rebuke, which we just have to let happen, I think. Interesting. Alright, let's play our Painter's Servant out. This is a bold choice. I'm saying black. This pumps our Ingenious Smith. Let's try and grind our opponent out now. Oh, no, they've got the Gaia's Blessing, haven't they? Yeah, we've just lost this game, I think. I know they've got a Gaia's Blessing in their deck. That's such a silly thing to do. Oh my god. I've completely punted this game. Oh, sugar. I was talking about the Gaia's Blessing the whole time. Okay, I guess we have to do it. They might have the Gaia's Blessing in their hand. They do have the Gaia's Blessing in their hand. They have green mana, though. Oh, they don't have the Gaia's Blessing in their deck. Excellent. Okay, we get the 4-1. So, normally, Mono Blue Painter now has 1 Gaia's Blessing in the sideboard for the Painter Mirror. So, we managed to thread the needle a bit there. I think we punted that game, but our opponent just had an earlier build of the deck, perhaps, that I don't think is the correct build. So, we got a little bit lucky there. We beat a bounce spell there. They did have the green mana, so if they did have the Gaia's Blessing in their deck anywhere, it would have been in their hand, and they would have been able to cast it at end step or in their upkeep so they don't deck, and then they can just Grindstone us out. So I think, yeah, we got lucky there. We got the 4-1, so let's talk about the deck. This build felt pretty smooth. There was only one time that I wanted the Mox Opal, but there were games where the Aether Vial just was excellent and ran away with the game and gave us the ability to manipulate what was going in and out of play. The Ensnaring Bridge was a thing that forced Force of Wills out of our opponent. So, you know, it's either going to win us the game or it's going to strip away important things from their hand. So that felt pretty good. Crucible of Worlds, we won a game off the back of Crucible of Worlds. So, unsurprisingly, I'm very happy about that. I think just fiddle bending into that is so gross and I love it. We had a line where we should have got a Lion Sash at one point and didn't, and that would have been the better play. We still won that game. We had to go through more hoops to win that game, but we should have just got the Sash and won that game earlier. So the Sash looks pretty good. The Mother of Runes did a little bit of work, but not really very much this league. Esper Sentinels were actually pretty great. Skrelv did nothing this league. Skrelv would have been better as a Esper Sentinel this particular league, but that doesn't necessarily mean that much. The Hope of Ghirapur, it prevented us taking a little bit of damage in a game that we were massively behind on and lost. It did stop us once from taking a hit from a sort of Fire and Ice that would have caused us to tap our Mother of Runes and given our opponent another card. So maybe, if you want the Mox Opal back in the deck, maybe it's the Hope that goes for it. I do not want to remove Ensnaring Bridge anytime from this deck, though. I think that is just really strong. The other option is getting rid of the Skrelv for a Mox Opal, but I would like to play more leagues with Skrelv to see how good it is. The mana base, we managed to win a game without ever seeing a white source, so that was pretty cool. But I do sometimes wonder if I want more mana in this deck. Like, the Mox Opal is kind of like a halfway mana piece, because the idea is you can use it to cast your spells and stuff. But the problem is, it's hard to get enough artifacts in play if you don't have white mana, or if you get caught under a Collector Roof or something. So maybe there's another utility land that's worth running instead. So at least when you flood out, you have something going on. But I have to have a think about what I want from that and reconsider. I'm also considering dropping a Karakas for another basic planes just to make us a little bit more Wasteland proof. Now I know the Karakas has some useful value, but for saving our Fiddlebender, and you do get to bounce the occasional scary legend here and there. But maybe having two of them is potentially a liability at times, and having another unwastelandable land is something I'm probably in the market for. So I might think about the Mox Opal or another land and the Hope of Ghirapur going sort of thing. I would like to test Skrelv some more, because I know Eddie, who built this original deck, I know that he's quite high on the Skrelv at the moment, so I'd like to give it a fair shake. This was obviously not the greatest league to test out in, but we've came away with a full one, so we can't really complain about that. The deck operated pretty well most of the time. We got buried horribly by that Yorion deck, but it's just a deck full of removal, counterspells, and card advantage, so we're going to get buried if they can take away. If we don't kill them in the first 4 or 5 turns of the game, we're just going to lose, because their late game is just so strong. Sideboard wise, we didn't come up against a matchup where we really needed Leylines, so I don't know how dodgy it is having the 3 instead of the 4. Another card I also like is Grafdigger's Cage. Previous versions of this deck, I used to play 1 Cage and 2 Rest in Peace in the board, because Cage is also very good against Elves, which is something that I would very much like to shore up a little bit matchup wise. The Deafening Silences make sense. I like those. We didn't get them today, but I'm happy with them. We didn't really get to use Hushbringers, which is not a shame, because it means we didn't play against the initiative, right? So these are also good against Elves, so I guess you could trim one of these for a Grafdigger's Cage if you wanted to. This does shut off the Crater Hoof from pumping all their guys, so that stops their big overrun win. It also stops them drawing cards with the Elvish Visionary, but what it doesn't do is, I guess Grafdigger's Cage doesn't stop Grist either, because it's a Planeswalker by the time it enters the battlefield. So I guess Hushbringer is kind of doing the Grafdigger's Cage job enough. But we didn't see Elves today. So yeah, pretty happy with this deck. I've mentioned it before on the channel, but I have this deck fully foiled, apart from this Skrelv, which I haven't ordered yet. But I'm going to order a foil one of these. And once I've got that, I'll do a little video so you can see how pretty my deck is, because why not, right? And yeah, I think we're done for today. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you have some thoughts about this video, drop me a comment. If there's something you'd like to see me play on the channel, by all means, drop me a comment, let me know, or something you'd like me to build around, that's also fine. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that because it really helps me out. That's what I'm trying to do right now, is get to 1,000 subscribers and get a bit of money back from doing these videos. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a nice bit of Mono White Painter, or Plumber as it's known, and goodbye.